Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our anti-aging webinar. I'm Lauren Young of Freshly Baked Communications, and today I'll be serving as your moderator for the topic, Test Your True Age. And Janine Joswiak, owner of Nature's Balance Acupuncture and Wellness Center, will lead the presentation this morning. Welcome, Janine.
Hello, good morning.
Wonderful. So Janine is a graduate of the Kalish Institute of Functional Medicine, and she is very excited to share some information that she provides to her patients with you. Just a few housekeeping rules before we begin. Please keep your phones on mute to eliminate any background noise during our conference. You will have an opportunity to ask questions with our expert at the end of the webinar. In the meantime, if you do have a question or you'd like to ask additional comments to Janine or I during the presentation, you are welcome to participate by using the chat feature, which you can find in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. There will also be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and Janine will be happy to answer as many questions as she can during our allotted time. And finally, we have a special offer for all the participants on the call today. If you're listening live, you have an opportunity to win a $50 gift card from Purium. And Purium is one of the recommended nutrition and herbal supplements companies that can jumpstart your wellness plan this year. So one winner will be announced at the end of each webinar this year, so be sure to pay close attention to the information she is about to share. Take it away, Janine.
Thanks. All right. So for those of you who missed our last webinar, I'm going to give you a short review before we get started on the assessing your true age. So as I said in the past, unfortunately aging is a process that is genetically predetermined, but it is environmentally modulated, and unfortunately it is the ultimate disease that affects us all. However, you can slow down the process so that you can truly live out the years that you have left and thrive and not just merely survive. And through these webinars, we've given you some tips on how to, on how to accomplish this. And today we're going to give you some more. So take a look at this picture. And for those of you who have not been on previous webinars, if you could just let me know in the chat feature if you know what these various areas have in common. And I'll give you a couple seconds. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know last time we discussed this, there were a few people who mentioned these are all warm areas for sure.
True, they are warm areas, but there's something a little deeper in this. And what they are, they're called the blue zones. And these are pockets in the world where the number of centurions leading relatively normal lives, and I highlight that, relatively normal lives, are 10 times more common than in the West. And again, the idea of leading relatively normal lives, they are not surviving, being taken care of. They are actually actively involved in society. They're actively involved in their own care, and some of them actually live on their own. Now, there was a project called the Longevity Project conducted by Friedman and Martin. And Friedman and Martin found that the strongest predictor of long life was conscientiousness. And so what that means is, in other words, self-responsibility. So these people in these areas focused on the big picture, and they were making good health choices moment to moment, and rather than looking at the big picture rather than, oh, I really want this donut right now. So that's what these are. These are the blue zones, and that's where people live the longest. So just as people in the blue zones, we're all faced with decisions. Every single day we have to decide on, what should we eat, whether we're exercising or not, whether we hold on to anger against somebody, we work too much, we work too little, we don't take time to de-stress. So all these things are decisions that we have to make. And clearly some of them are bad and some of them are good. But there's always a way to make a bad decision a little bit better. So what I mean by that is, for example, sometimes you can't always cook. You know, you just are running late on time, you just don't have the time. So let's go and make the best decision we can. So for example, if I, you know, maybe go out and go to a salad, you know, like go to a Fresh Thyme or something and get a salad, you know, I'll get the salad and I'll make sure that I get the kale and I'll make sure I get all the vegetables and I'll do all those things. And then I'll actually even upgrade the salad. So I may add some dulse flakes, or I may add some spirulina chips, some other things that'll actually upgrade that decision. So I made an okay decision, but I make even upgrading it and making it even better. So our goal is always to make the best decision we can given the current set of circumstances. And that's the best we can do. And if we always do that, then that's going to improve our life and improve our health and help us age on a much slower basis. So today we're going to cover muscle wasting, over-exercising, flexibility, repetitive patterns, and distal injuries. So the first thing we're going to talk about is muscle wasting. So loss of muscle can happen in a couple ways. First, muscle atrophy. So you have an accident, a disease, and for some reason you're not moving that arm or leg anymore. You know, you break your arm, you're not moving it. So the muscles are going to atrophy and they're going to waste away. So basically muscle atrophy in this case is caused by physical inactivity. And it causes you don't use it, you lose it. So that's one thing. The second reason we can lose muscle is through a process called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia, or muscle loss due to aging, can start as early as 20. There is no particular age. It doesn't say yes, it doesn't start as 20 or 30 or whatever. But the bottom line is there's many factors that contribute to this process starting. And one of the key things, again, is physical inactivity. And this is important: dietary energy intake less than the daily requirements. And it's important that I say that because I don't mean caloric deficiency. I say dietary energy intake that's less than the daily requirements. And so what that means is you're getting less energy out of your food than you actually need to run your body. So, for example, let's use an example of candy bars. You could eat candy bars all day long. Calorically, you're going to get your calories. But nutritionally, you're deficient, totally deficient. And so it's really about the nutritional value of what you're eating that's going to either feed your muscles and your cells, or it's going to help, it's going to cause them to break down because they're not being fed properly. So, the process of muscle loss is slow. It's not like you wake up one day and say, oh my gosh, here it is. But so, for example, in the case of obviously a broken arm, it is very quick. I mean, it's very quick because you're not moving it, and all of a sudden you get that cast taken off, and oh my gosh, you can't move your arm. In the case of just general inactivity, it's a slow process. It's slowly but surely, you start to lose your muscle, you start to lose your muscle strength, and then one day the actual mass starts to break down, and you wake up and you look and say, what happened? I used to have really nice biceps, or I used to have really tight muscles, and they're gone. So that's the beginning. So how do we get around this? Well, it's progressive. It's a progressive loss, and you can lose 1 to 2% per year every year past the age of 50. So that's almost a half a pound of muscle every year you can lose. So number one, we need to make sure that we have a healthy diet that meets all our energy requirements. That's essential. Then we have a thing called Master Aminos from Purium, and that's a product that actually is pre-digested amino acids. So it's available to your body within 23 minutes of taking them, and it actually helps. It provides all the building blocks necessary for muscles and bones and cells. And the next thing you want to do is movement. You want to move. You want to do. You want to have good circulation, and you want to do what we call functional movements. Movements that you're going to be doing in life. You know, you're going to be squatting in life. You're going to be bending over. You're going to be pushing things over your head. You know, so those are examples of things we do every single day. And the way we can use those things when we exercise, we can do squats. We can do lunges. You know, we can do a bench press, which pushes, you know, weight over your head. You know, we can do rows and overhead presses. We can do push-ups, pull-ups, you know, deadlifts. Those are all functional movements. Those are things that, yeah, we're doing in the weight room, but those are things, actually, the same movements we're doing in real life. So that's functional movements. So it's really about getting the food that you need, the nutrition that you need to build muscles, and then actually using them. Chlorella is another thing that actually helps to regulate muscle building, so that's another good one, and we talked about that last time with regards to travel. So it's very versatile. So the next thing we got is over-exercising. Typically, you know, it's really under-exercising, that's the issue, but some people really like to exercise a lot and they go overboard. And, you know, there's nothing, in Chinese medicine, it's about balance. It's kind of like the, you know, the three bears. You know, this porridge, one seat was too hard, one seat was too soft, and one seat was just right. Well, that's exactly what it is about in life. You know, under-exercising is not good. Well, over-exercising is not good either. Because when you exercise is good because it actually stresses your body out. It stresses your body, and it causes your body to improve, to get better, to get stronger. But stress, this working out, also, if you do it too much, it can be very catabolic or destructive because it actually produces destructive hormones like cortisol. And cortisol, the stress on the body causes oxidation in the body. And oxidation is like rust on the car. And so when you think about it, when you're working, when your body is functioning, you are basically creating energy. And in creating energy, there's a byproduct and there's a waste product. So think about a fire in the fireplace. You're using the logs to produce fuel. The flames are burning and creating the fuel, but there's smoke, and that's the oxidation. So think about that in your body. So, you know, so if we're doing exercise too much, we're producing too much of this oxidative stress on the body, and that can be destructive because it's going to cause our body to rust and break down much faster. So again, it's not about too little or too much, it's about finding the right balance for you. So the University of Valencia, Department of Physiology, you know, basically did a study, and they found that when you exercise too much, it actually increases the oxidation of glutathione in the blood. Now, glutathione is the master antioxidant, so actually it stops rusting. So if it's actually oxidizing this antioxidant, that's obviously a really bad problem, because now you got actually the thing that's actually in your body working to keep you from rusting and to keep you from oxidizing, actually being oxidized and broken down. So obviously that's not a great thing. In addition to too much exercise, it puts undue strain on parts of your body. And, you know, it can cause wrinkling, it can cause sagging, it can cause issues with joints and tendons and ligaments because you're overworking, repetitively overworking. So you can prevent some of this by regularly taking vitamins, you know, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, taking antioxidants, you know, and basically the most important thing is to manage your amount of exercise you do. You want to exercise but not overly exercise. So you can use something called HRT to actually, it's heart rate variability, HRV, and it actually is something that you can use to measure to see if you're breaking your body down or actually getting yourself feeling, you know, if it's if it's enough stress or if it's too much stress on your body. So, you know, as I said, when we burn fuel for exercise, we actually cause pollution in our body. and we have to have a way to clean up the pollution. So one of the things we don't have listed here is Purium's superxanthin. And superxanthin has astaxanthin in it. And astaxanthin is a master antioxidant, and it helps actually repair damage after it's been done. So that's really important when you think about exercising, because when you take this particular product after exercising, it actually helps you recover much quicker because it's actually helping to repair the damage that you've done when you are actually working out, because you're obviously breaking down muscles. Now, there was a study done by the New England Journal of Medicine in 1982, and they did a study on endurance athletes. And they compared 3 groups of athletes based upon physical activity, and they found that the highest death rate was found among men who vigorously exercised for more times during the week. So if there was the group that exercised many times during the week, a medium amount, and a small amount during the week, and they found that those that exercised the most actually had a higher death rate. So that could be reason why somebody like Jim Fixx, died in his early 50s, because again, he was oxidizing his body and rusting it and breaking it down, and there was no repair process in it. So the important thing is, like I said, you want to get exercise, an hour strenuous exercise, you can get 45 minutes of exertion, but you can talk, you're able to talk. And then you can do something simple like just getting an hour of activity out of life. So instead of parking up right by the door, you park further out in the parking lot, and maybe you run. You do a little jogging, you walk quickly, you play out there with your kids, throw some things around, go out there, throw a frisbee. So you can get activity and get exercise out of just living life. There's a thing called Tabata, and a Tabata is a 4-minute exercise. And you pick out 4 exercises, and you do them full out for 20 seconds, and you rest for 10 seconds, and you repeat this. Repeat this, the exercise once through, and then you repeat it again. So it's basically 2 rounds of each exercise. And they found that athletes who use the Tabata, this little 4-minute thing, a couple times a week, they actually have achieved personal best records just by adding this into their regimen. So you think it's not a lot, but you don't need a lot to put a little additional stress on your body and help your body actually grow and improve rather than breaking down. So the third thing we're going to talk about is flexibility. So lack of flexibility in Chinese medicine is called stagnation. And where there's stagnation, it's kind of like a kink in a garden hose. So there's this garden hose, it's kinked, the water's not going through, you're not able to water your plants will die. So that's stagnation, and you can apply that to your body. So we have the meridians that run through the body, and where there's stagnation, no blood flow, there's no nutrients, no oxygen, nothing is going there, so nothing is feeding it. Only that particular area is going to die. Think about how long you would live if you didn't. Not very long. Basically, I have to breathe. So oxygen is critical. With oxygen comes nutrients, and with nutrients, blood is the carrier for the nutrients and the oxygen. So we really need to be flexible, and we need to be stagnation free. Now the spine is critical to have good spinal flexibility, because it's the carrier of information. It's actually, it's connected to the brain, and it provides all the the neurotransmitters out to the body to actually signal it to do things. So if you have good spinal flexibility, you're going to reduce injury, you're going to increase blood flow, nutrient flow, oxygen circulation, and it actually improves the lymphatic system and how the lymphatic system flows. Because remember, the lymphatic system does not move on its own. It doesn't have a pump. So you have to pump it with exercise. And there's actually a 3-to-1 ratio in of lymphatic fluid to blood. So it's a whole lot more important to move that in lymphatic fluid on a daily basis, and that's what exercise does. Exercise helps you to move that, because basically when say you're doing a leg lift or a bench press, you're actually pumping those muscles, and that's moving the lymphatic fluid too. Now here we talk about yoga, and yoga is extremely great for flexibility. It's even more powerful than just about flexibility, but basically they've shown that using yoga poses, you can reduce low back pain and improve function. And why is that? Potentially it's because you're actually increasing the flow of blood, nutrients, and oxygen to the area, eliminating the stagnation. So in addition to just helping with flexibility, yoga practices can improve quality of life, reduce stress, lower heart rate and blood pressure, help relieve anxiety, depression, insomnia, help to improve overall physical fitness. And if you've done yoga and you've actually held the pose for a long time doing something like a yin yoga, it's actually going to increase your strength and your flexibility, because you're really holding that particular position. So that's actually engaging your muscles. So we got some self-maintenance. So, again, as they say, if you don't move it, you lose it. And you want to have a good amount of physical exercise so that you can delay the consequences of aging and improve your health and your well-being. And so you want to do that on a regular basis. And one of the supplements that you can take to help with flexibility, think about oiling. You want to oil your joints to get everything moving, is fish oil. So my teacher has an analogy, and think about it. We have a couple pieces of white bread, and we said put some peanut butter on it. And that, we can actually bend that sandwich, and we can kind of push it around, and it's very, if we put a couple drops of red dye on it, that red dye would go very pliable, and it's very permeable. Now, think about an Oreo cookie. Not very flexible, not very pliable, and certainly not very permeable. So on your cells, there are receptors for omega-3 oil, and those receptors are going to be filled. Whether they be filled with good oils or bad oils, they're going to be filled with something. If they're filled with good oils, you're going to have cells like that peanut butter sandwich, flexible, pliable, and permeable. Or if it's filled with bad oils that are going to make the cells harder, you're going to have an Oreo cookie. So my teacher would always say, what do you want, peanut butter and jelly or Oreo cookie cells? Those are your choices. So fish oil is really important. You can actually take up to 1 gram per % of body fat of fish oil in order to just help lose weight, as a starting point. That's what my teacher does when he sees somebody for the first time. He starts them on very, very high doses of fish oil, and that's all he does for the first week. So he's starting to get those cells flexible and permeable, and also they lose weight. So that's kind of cool. So the next thing we're going to talk about is repetitive patterns. So repetitive patterns are everything from, the way we drive to work every day, the things we do, every single morning, every single night, the way we hold our body. It's all about, it's a framework which we live by, and we kind of get into that framework and we kind of just go by rote. And the thing you have to remember is anything we do by rote, or we're doing it on autopilot, that means you're aging. So autopilot means you're stuck. So that's not a very good thing. Think about a child. A child does pretty much nothing by rote. Everything's kind of very flexible, very fluid, shall I say. So we want to make sure that we think about that and think about our life. And so what I would encourage you to do is look at your life and look at a common thread. Is there something that's holding you from making changes? Is there something that's keeping you stuck in this rote, repetitive pattern? And if there is, many times it's a common thread that you'll find throughout your life, and you break that common thread, you cut the thread, and guess what? Now all of a sudden you're able to experience so many different things in life. So I encourage you to try something different today. And instead of coffee, maybe you have tea. Instead of sitting all the time, maybe you stand. Take a different route to work. Go on the internet, look for a different recipe. Don't do the same thing you've always done. Go to a different store, try something different. Start breaking the patterns. Little by little, you start to experience a whole other side of life that you didn't even know was there because you're stuck in your repetitive patterns. So our last one is distal injuries. Now, distal injuries can be anything from, distal on your body, meaning, the extremities, meaning your fingers, your feet, your legs, to distal meaning long time ago, something that happened long time ago. So, for example, in the case of, say, somebody fell and broke their hip many years ago, it basically throws the whole body out of balance, and it throws your hips out of balance and throws your everything out of alignment. So during those years that pass after that accident or that injury, you're going to start to wear and tear a little bit differently. You're going to start to break down in a different way had that injury not happened. And as a result of that long time ago injury, it may make you more prone to breaking a hip again, or breaking another bone in that particular body, because again, it's been worn in a different way than it originally was when you were before the injury. So when you think about distal injury, think about your feet and your legs, and anything that happens there is going to throw off your center of gravity, because from your hips down, that's the car that's going to move the rest of the body around. So you got to really make sure you take care of that lower body. Another thing can be an emotional, something emotional that happened long ago. You still have never really gotten over it, and it just keeps coming back to haunt you as life goes along. And that's the case in whether it be emotional or physical. It's something that happened long ago that just comes back and haunts you, and it causes you. It affects the rate and speeds up the rate at which you age. Because if you're hanging on to anger, that's going to eat away at you inside, even though it's not top of mind. It's just going to eat away at you, eat away at you, eat away at you, and slowly but surely you are aging when that happens. So it's important when you think about it, think about your life. When people come into our office, we always spend a lot of time going through and thinking about what happened a long time ago that could have been playing a role in what we see today. How could, whether it be, did you have an accident? Were you part of sport? Were you involved in sports? Did you have siblings where you always used to fight with them and wrestle with them? Could those have provided the framework or the foundation? Something happened during those times that actually played into and contributed to what is displaying today and what's happening today with your life and your health. So, it's unfortunate we can't go back in time. So we just have to look at those things, look at what happened in our life, look at contributing factors, and we got to try to remediate them. And you can remediate them, using various therapies, exercise, acupuncture, massage, chiropractic, physical therapy. Those are ways to remediate physical things. EFT, EMDR are therapies for distal emotional injuries, so that we can break away from those. There's supplements that you can use, that are anti-inflammatory supplements. getting a good regimen. The tart cherry juice has more antioxidants than 13 servings of fruits and vegetables. Joint Flex has some things in it that has curcumin. It has white willow bark, which is comparable to aspirin. They have boswellia for pain relief. So there's different things you can get with that to help a physical injury to actually to remediate that particular injury. And then eating real food, not the standard American diet. That's going to help us to provide our body with the nutrients so that it can repair itself, because I do believe the body can repair itself. It takes, if it's been there for a while, it's going to take a while to get repaired, but it can repair itself. Another interesting thing is that when you have a distal injury physically, it throws you off, and it actually takes and it makes your right side and your left side not flowing, and it kind of throws, they're not in sync anymore. So one of the things you can do to help rebalance that is to actually skip. Skipping helps to rebalance the right and left side, which is kind of interesting. So we talked about the five methods to look at your true age. So looking at muscle wasting, did you have any injuries? Did you have anything that happened long ago that where your muscles are breaking down? Are you moving your muscles a lot enough? Over-exercising. Are you over-exercising or under-exercising? Your flexibility. How flexible are you? Repetitive patterns. How stuck in patterns are you? And how many distal injuries did you have? So those are things that are going to, if you look at those things, if you give yourself a number, I'm on a scale of 1 to 5, well, I haven't had any distal injuries, so that's a good thing, or any major distal injuries, but I've had some minor ones, so maybe I'm a 2. How stuck am I? How many things do I try that's new? Again, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 and see where you stand up. The more stuck you are, the more things that have happened, the more you are definitely aging, and the faster you're aging. So hopefully we've given you some strategies today to give you some thoughts about how to remediate and how to slow down the aging process. And for those of you who have not been on seen the other 2 webinars, those certainly will give you a little bit even more information about anti-aging. And here's some products we mentioned in it for inflammation. We have the fish oil and we have Joint Flex. That's Purium's Joint Flex. So those are really good, two good products to help with inflammation. Fish oil is an anti-inflammatory. We have to prevent oxidation, or to help with oxidation, we have astaxanthin, which is the super xanthan from Purium, and then tart cherry. And then we have our core nutrition, because none of these other things are going to work if we don't have that core nutrition in place and our body is not being given the nutrients it needs in order to run on a regular basis. So we got multivitamins, probiotics, vitamin D, and master aminos, which are the building blocks for muscles and cells. So identify the early warning signs. Look at your body. Listen to what it's telling you. Again, I was talking about exercising. You may want to do some HRV to see how you're able to handle exercise. Are you able to, is today a good day for exercise? Is it a good day for hard exercise, or should I maybe go a little bit lighter? HRV is an excellent metric to use on a daily basis to measure your ability to handle stress. So HeartMath has a program that you can get, and you can actually, it's a little device that you can use on the fly, and to help you get into, to increase your heart rate variability. Because the more heart rate variability you have, the better able you are to handle stress. So again, there we go. We need variability. We don't want to be stuck in a particular pattern. Change your diet. Get away from the sad American diet. Make time for exercise. Do functional movements. Work exercise into your daily regimen. It doesn't have to be an hour that you're putting aside and that you're going to go to the gym and do some exercise. It could be, a Tabata. Stand up and do a Tabata a few times a day. I mean, that's amazing exercise. And then, Purium has some great products, whole food products, and those are excellent to help support your good habits. And I truly mean support, not to replace. You got, like I said, you have to have that good foundation that you're providing and then supplement accordingly. Okay, so we covered all that. And Lauren?
All right. Thanks so much, Janine. Great job. So everyone on the call, we'd love to hear a little bit more from you. What did you come away with in this webinar? Was there an example or a statement that Janine made that made you pause and think about your own health? So Janine and I would like to invite you to share some thoughts with us in the chat field. If you did register for this webinar in advance, we're going to send out an email in the next day or so that will have the short link to this recording, and we will also announce the winner of the $50 gift card from Purium for the one person that we selected from this webinar that joined us live. So this will be fantastic to put towards some of the supplements like Janine mentioned earlier this morning. And if you're listening to this as a recording or as a YouTube video, please join our Functional Medicine Toolkit group on LinkedIn so that you can receive notification of future webinars and events. So I'm going to go back to the chat field to see we have a couple of questions here. Okay, Seth is saying, if you have an injury that didn't heal properly, would you recommend flexibility exercises to take away some of the pain, or would you recommend something else?
That's a great question. So we have to figure out what was injured, what was damaged, and then you can use flexibility certainly to help increase, but that's increasing flexibility. Sometimes you actually have to do exercises to actually help to build the muscles so that you can compensate a little bit better for that injury. So I think you got to really look at each injury as a case-by-case basis, but flexibility is never a bad thing. But oftentimes when you have an injury, you have to figure out what is gone. So what you can do is you can look at a particular body and say, okay, what is firing too much? What muscles are firing too much? What muscles are not firing? And then you have to address that accordingly. So hopefully that answers the question.
All right. Thanks, Seth. Just let us know if we answered your question, or you can go back to the chat and add any additional comments. We have another question from Amanda. She's asking, is marathon training over-exercising? She would like to continue doing this, but she wonders if she's putting too much stress on her body.
That's a really interesting question, because I actually just started reading the book Primal Endurance by Mark Sisson. And I think you can do training for marathons. However, it has to be a very balanced approach. In Primal Endurance, I highly recommend it. I'm like maybe about a third through it, and they really give you a more balanced approach to training for a marathon and eating for that training and for racing. It really is, I'm not a marathoner by any stretch of the imagination, so I give you credit for doing that, but I highly recommend Primal Endurance. I think it'll give you some ideas. As a marathon trainer, if you're going to be doing any kind of endurance activities, you really need to take care of yourself, as you know, making sure you get a good diet, taking care of your body, and I would highly recommend the heart rate variability to see what type of training you should be doing on a regular basis.
Okay. Thanks, Janine. Amanda, let us know if we answered your question, or feel free to send us anything additionally. For everybody else who's asking if there will be additional webinars, when we do additional events, we'll be sure to let you know in the LinkedIn group and also the Facebook page. And you can see all the information here on this slide. So be sure to follow us or send us an email here at info@naturesbalanceacupuncture.com. For joining the webinar live, you will receive the link, but any future links will also be listed on the website or on our Facebook and LinkedIn page. Okay. As I don't see any additional comments here in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's anti-aging webinar. And Janine and I would like to say thank you very much on behalf of the entire Nature's Balance Acupuncture and Wellness Center team for your participation. And we hope that you've learned something new that you can start doing today that will benefit your health and slow down the aging process. Take care.